One of the best ways to make a Terraria build look better is to add greenery, and one of the easiest ways to do that is to make custom trees. And when I started off making custom trees, they're pretty hard to make considering the shape can sometimes be a little wonky or off. And so I'd like to show you guys how I make my trees, and maybe it'll help you guys out. So I've gone ahead and built some custom trees, and the ones over here have uh, full centers, so there's not a whole lot in the middle showing, and it's mostly just leaves. Whereas I made two other trees, like a cherry blossom and just a regular tree, where there's a little more in the middle that you can see, more branches, and here there's a lot more space. And so the first tip that I have is to decide whether you would like a more leafy tree without the hollow middle, or one with a hollow middle with more branches. Once you've decided whether to make it leafy or hollow, deciding the color and the type of tree is also important. So here's an example of like a cherry blossom, which has more of a leafy center. And so I've used the living wood wand just for the wood, and I've also used the leaf wand with negative paint to get this nice pink, light pink color, as well as negative paint on the leaf walls on the outside, just to add that secondary color. And so some type of shape like this with a few different branches coming off is nice for a cherry blossom. On this one, I didn't use any paint at all. I added the living wood wand for the living wood over on the trunk, and a few kind of branches put here and there, as well as for the trunk, living wood wall, which adds just kind of like a second layer to it, and I think I like it. It's optional. Building these is just how you'd like to do it, but sometimes it looks nice doing that, as well as a little bit of living wood, living leaf walls are nice on the ground just for kind of add some vegetation. I also added the rich mahogany leaf to this build because it's just a little bit of a different green. So this is the regular leaf, this is the rich mahogany. It's a little lighter, so you can change it up. But when I build it, I'll show you guys how I build these. But that's kind of an example of a regular tree with a leafy center. Here's a pine tree. Well, really all you got to do is just make a straight up. I think the wood ends here, straight up with the wood, and then pretty much just make a cone shape with the leaves. They look really nice. Here's a somewhat custom tree, considering it's using the pine tree blocks. But that's another way of making a pine tree, is with these blocks. Or you can make another pine tree that's a little higher. And those are pretty nice too. And I've also went and textured the wood with just regular wood and the living wood. And I kind of like that. I might play around with that a little bit later. So here is a palm tree. It's kind of my attempt. It's not the nicest. I used palm wood for the wood. And then I also used the rich mahogany leaves because they're a little bit brighter. And then I added some leaf block or leaf wall in the background. This is probably my least favorite tree out of all these, and I might try to design it a little bit different, but that's just an idea of how that could work. Here's kind of a smaller tree, and I also used, I think, ebon stone block painted brown for the wood, as well as just some living wood wall in the back just to kind of add to it. And then it's just kind of a smaller, kind of looking like a bonsai tree, maybe something that's younger. So the second type of tree is the trees with more hollow centers, and you can see more of the wood in the middle. And I really like these because it kind of adds more texture and volume to it. You can make them a lot bigger. So same thing for just the regular tree, except this one I used regular leaf blocks. And so just the living wood with the living wood walls in the middle as well, kind of just to add that color. And then the leaf blocks all the way around, as well as hammering out some of the leaf blocks to get the spaces in there, and then adding the leaf walls, just to add that second kind of palette to it. And so I did pretty much the same thing here with the cherry blossom, but here you can see a little more hollow center, more kind of sky than this, see-through. And that kind of suits the cherry blossom a little more than the regular tree. And so kind of same design, and you just make a big trunk and spread it out from there. So I'll show you guys how I would go about making a tree somewhat like this. We could do that. I'll do it right here. I'll just cut these down. So to make building a little bit easier, I am using a few mods. And on the hero mod, there is an infinite reach tool. So I'm just going to use that to make this building a little easier. And I don't have to jump around and stuff. So first off, we'll go ahead and build the trunk. I like to make it a little wide in the bottom, just like a regular tree. We'll make it a little bit smaller, this one. We'll make it wide as well. There. Quite a few of those. There. It looks a little kind of funky, but we just want to make it textured and look a little bit different. Get rid of that. There we go. I like that. Stick with that. So next, I usually make a kind of a general shape out of the leaves. So we'll start here, come up like that, come out, make this one nice and big. Just come around, and then from there we can fill in like an inner layer. So I'm doing two outlines of where the leaves will be. It'll be solid leaves, and then so in here is more hollow, and we can still add a little bit of leaves kind of across like that, just for the texture. And we'll make it work later. So I kind of like that. Look at that. So now we just got to fill this in. So this mod helps a lot for building these a lot quicker. So then once I fill this in, then I'll start hammering some of the leaf blocks, and then that gets rid of like the darker areas where the lighting is dark, and that really just helps make the tree look a lot brighter and nicer. We'll just finish this up. As quick as I can build. Maybe, oh, whoops. Tried to use the smart cursor, but you can't use that in the infinite mode. That's okay. Oh, we're gonna get trapped in here. There we go. So really just making some sort of general shape is nice. This one's a little wide. Bring it down a bit. There we go. That looks a little bit better for shape. And almost done filling this in. There we go. So now I just go around and hammering some random blocks. So this helps just make it a little bit brighter. That it's not too dark inside. And then there's a little trick that you can use to make these spacers, the spaces not so big. And so if you look for the living leaf wall, and you go to either side, there's just a little space, and you're able to still get the light through. Even there, if you go on 3 sides of it, sometimes you'll still get the light through. And that's really nice for just making the tree look bright, but not have all these holes in it. So I'll just go around doing that just to the sides of these blocks. And there we go. That looks a lot nicer. Oh, I accidentally filled that one in. Those 2 in. Sometimes that happens, but that's okay. Go and fix that later. And so what we're doing here, we'll also do a little bit in here. And it's really just kind of random, like that. And so you still get that background, just not as much of the background here, but you get the kind of that hollow feel. And we'll also come down here and kind of brings a little bit of variation color to the outside. Just outlining it with the walls. Makes it look nice. It adds a lot to the build. So we'll keep hammering some of these. Get our walls back out. There we go. So we can do that kind of on the outside here. We can also add some of these walls in here too. So the wood walls. That'll help sort of get a little extra color in here too. There we go. So there's still some light in there, and maybe we'll hammer a little bit of that out. Get more light. There we go. Clear those items. And so this looks pretty good like that. So the last thing that I would probably do is just add a little bit of kind of texture to this tree trunk. So there we go. That adds, it makes it a little more full. And then obviously, if we weren't right beside this kind of cliff here, it would look a little bit nicer. But that's kind of how I go about building my trees. So this one is one of the hollow ones, and I just kind of do the same thing with up here, and then just a tiny bit of this stuff kind of in here, and then it ends up looking like one of the leafy ones that's not hollow, like this. So there's a little less of that and more leaves. That's kind of how I go about building my trees. I hope that it will help you guys build your custom trees. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.